I was recently asked to respond to the case of Todd Fassler, a guy in San Diego, I think it is. He may have just been a visiting student there. I'm not sure all of the particulars of the case, but I think I remember hearing that. In any case, he found a rattlesnake in some brush. He pulled it out and was holding it and was trying to get a selfie photograph with it, and the snake bit him. Went to the hospital, and after being in ICU and getting antivenin injections, and I suspect probably painkillers, maybe some anti-inflammatories, I don't know. In any case, when he was released from the hospital, he got his bill, and it was over $150,000. And this has sent a shocked ripple through social networks and such, where people are wondering, why did it cost him so much to get treated for a rattlesnake bite? And I think it was in this vein that I was asked the question to whether I would make a video about it to share my thoughts on the matter. So I'm going to do that. Basically, it's a couple aspects that I would want to respond to in regard to this story. I guess the first one has to do with the antivenin itself and the costs. So, for those who are unaware, antivenin is created by injecting sheep, horses, rabbits, mammals basically, with snake venom or venom of other animals like spiders, scorpions, these kind of things. And and it's diluted, right? They don't get a straight shot of the venom. The venom is diluted, and through that their bodies produce an immunoresponse, and their blood is harvested, and the cells that were created in that immunoresponse are culled from the blood and used to create an antivenin injection for humans. So we basically taken parts of their blood, their immunoresponse, and shooting it into our own bodies so it will have an immediate reaction with the venom if we're bitten. So basically those cells attach to the venom and neutralize them. So and that's a whole costly process, right? You got to have guys who are keeping venomous snakes all the time. There's a place in Kentucky that's very famous for this. And they have to milk those snakes regularly for venom. And then somebody has to go through the process of envenomating the animals whose blood is going to be harvested for the immunoresponse, and then taking the immuno material and mixing that into a serum which can be injected into humans with no serious toxic effect, or with an effect that's less toxic than the venom itself. And so all of that, and then shipping it to the hospitals, and then the hospitals got to get their, cut. So all that costs money. But my understanding is that the cost of a vial, of an average vial of what's called crofab, which is the standard for venomous snakes in North America, It's polyvalent, which means it works with multiple species, and it works for all the rattlesnake bites and copperhead and cottonmouth bites in North America. Crowfab vial, my understanding is, costs about, say, average $3,000, and maybe the hospital would bump it up 20% from that in their pharmacy to make a profit, but let's just say roughly 3,000. All right, so I've seen this guy in San Diego, this Todd. I've seen his bill, his hospital bill, and the pharmacy portion of that bill is in excess of $80,000. Now I assume, see, the problem is when we see that bill online, we don't get all the breakdown of the medications. I assume that a majority of that 80,000 is going toward the Crowfab, but I don't know. And unless that information becomes available online, then really any criticism of the hospital, you know, I don't know whether it's founded or not, but okay, let's just say it was. Let's just say most of that 80,000 plus was billed for the Crowfab Antivenin itself. An average rattlesnake bite, from my understanding, if you're having a really toxic reaction to it, which for good reason many people do, that average rattlesnake bite is going to require maybe a dozen vials of the antivenin. Now, depending on the species that bites you, you might require 0 vials. You might require a dozen. You might require, I don't know if anybody requires 20. I don't know, but like the cases that I've heard about where they do administer the antivenin, usually what I hear for numbers is a dozen vials. So a dozen vials of antivenin at $3,000 a piece should be $36,000. Let's round it up and say it's hospitals tacking on money for their pharmacy. Let's round it up to $40,000, right? Even at that, you know, seems like this guy got double charged for his antivenin costs, right? At 80,000, double charged. And let's say it does cost you $40,000 in antivenin, and then $10,000 for a day's care in the hospital. I mean, that's giving the hospital a lot of money. 50,000 is what I would estimate would be a reasonable high price for treatment of a rattlesnake bite in North America. I would say high price. So 50,000. So this guy paid in excess of 150,000. So he paid 3 times as much as my estimate of what the cost of that kind of bite should run you in terms of medical treatment, modern medical treatment. So what it points to me is not that the rattlesnakes are the terrible thing here, but that the profiteering American medical system is, you know, once again doing its thing, and people are getting charged way more than they should for the services rendered. I mean, myself living in Canada, my expectation if I get bit by a rattlesnake is that I'm going to pay zero. First of all, it's an emergency procedure, so it should be covered under Alberta healthcare altogether. But if there were some things that were extraneous, like certain painkillers afterwards and that kind of thing, I have, insurance to cover that, and the insurance that I pay is not an exorbitant amount. Like, I don't pay hundreds of dollars a month for medical insurance, to be sure. So people want to know why it cost this guy so much when he was bit by a rattlesnake. The number one reason it cost so much was because the American medical system gouges people, charging 3, 4, or more times as much as is necessary, even for them to make a high profit. So that's my basic analysis in regard to the cost. Now, of course, the Antivenin, like I said, is not cheap. $3,000 a vial. If you need 12 vials, that's a very good new car right there that you just bought. So that brings up the other question, like, knowing that the cost is going to be significant, not only in financial terms but in health terms, if you get bit by a rattlesnake, should you be posing for selfies with them if you come across them? The obvious answer is not, right? You can easily get a picture of a rattlesnake from a safe distance of a few feet away. A nice picture that you can say, look what I came across. You can even stand kind of near the rattlesnake, get a picture of you with the rattlesnake on the ground a few feet away. Safely, totally safely. But the minute you pick up that rattlesnake, even if you are in control of the head, you're putting yourself at a significant risk of getting bit. And so, did this guy have it coming to him? Yes, he did. Did he have the 150,000 bill coming to him? No. But he had a big bill coming to him. That's the price that he was going to have to pay for being silly and trying to hold a snake that he knew was venomous. Now, I can't say that I myself haven't done such silly things. In fact, there is a video on my YouTube channel here where I'm holding a rattlesnake live and loosely. I'm not controlling his head, except for the extent that I know rattlesnake and snake in general body language, so I could read his intentions. And actually, toward the end of the video shoot, he started to get a little nervous, so I made sure to cut things short and to quickly get his head down on the ground where he felt more secure than being held aloft by me. But I've been holding snakes all my life. Generally, once you learn snake body language, you can be fairly safe holding snakes. I mean, the guys who milk the snakes for the venom have to hold the snakes every day. And yeah, when you're doing something like that, you know that the chances are you're gonna get bit at some point. And I know that for myself too. In my work here in Lethbridge, there are occasions when I have to hand hold rattlesnakes. Now there is a safety procedure that I could use called tubing, where you take a translucent tube about the thickness, a little bit bigger than the thickness of the snake itself, and you put the head and a portion of the snake's body up the tube, fit it up the tube. That way you can just hold him, keep him in the tube, and there's far less chance that you're going to get bit. But myself, I feel more comfortable holding the head of the snake. I don't know why it is, but with the tubes, and it's probably just a completely paranoid notion, but I envision the snake turning in the tube in the manner that they do when they are going into mouse holes, turning back to face me and somehow biting me. I fear with the tube that the snake might muscle its way backward, and so basically I don't feel comfortable with the tube, and I haven't really put it to use. So like I said, the fear is mostly unfounded, but I do feel very comfortable holding snakes with my hands, because I've been doing it all my life. So when I do have a situation like, say, a snake gets caught up in somebody's garden netting and is all twisted up, in those situations there's a lot of times where you can't even use the tube because it's caught right up to its neck in the garden netting. You're gonna have to do something different. Anyway, so I end up holding the snake and getting a partner to take a little pair of scissors and cut the netting so we can cut the snake out. It's an operation that sometimes takes 15-20 minutes of handling, and it's dangerous, right? I had a situation last year where a rattlesnake got stuck in some tar. Somebody laid down some tar, it was warm, it attracted the snake went onto the tar, got stuck solid, and I had to peel the snake by hand out of the tar, and then afterward bring it home and wash the tar off the snake, first using a vegetable oil to loosen the tar, and then use soap and water to get the vegetable oil tar mix off of him. So you got those kind of situations, and I work by hand with the snakes. It's not that I would choose to do it all the time, just regularly, although I have on the one occasion made a video with the snake just to prove that the snakes are not out to bite us, and I took a shot from that film and actually use it as a selfie on my Facebook page. So I can't say that I haven't done the same thing in a sense as this guy, and it's a risk that you put yourself at, and for this guy it didn't pay off. Maybe he didn't know snake body language, or maybe he did and he was just got unlucky that day, because it just takes a snake a flash second to bite. Most of the time I can see it coming a mile away, but there's been occasions when snakes have struck at me that I totally wasn't expecting, and so that could have happened to this guy. I don't know. In any case, when you're doing something like that, you're taking a risk, right? It was no surprise really that a guy like Steve Irwin, say, should get killed by an animal in his line of work. I loved Steve Irwin, but this is what you put yourself at risk for. You got to accept that. So anybody working with snakes regularly has to know this is a possibility, this is coming. And even for those who don't work with them, but who have some venomous snake handling component in their life, like say these guys who are in their religion, they test their faith or what have you by holding venomous snakes. I got no issue with that, actually. I got no issue with that because, in fact, right here, the very first rattlesnake wrangler in Lethbridge was a Blackfoot Ghana blood Indian by the name of Calf Shirt, and he always had snakes on him, rattlesnakes, all the time. And when there was a young man courting his daughter, his test for that young man was to go into the coulee, find a particular rattlesnake, pick it up, and bring it to Calf Shirt. So he's basically putting that young man to the same test as, in a way, as these guys with their religion. Not the exact same, but pretty close. He was basically testing the young man's character. If the snakes bite him, he'll know that young man's character is not fully developed, and he has no business taking a wife, you know? Certainly not Calf Shirt's daughter. So I got no problem with that kind of thing either, right? But in all instances, if you're holding a venomous snake, you're putting yourself at risk, right? So when all is said and done, this guy put himself at risk knowingly and got bit, and you know, it's not unexpected that he should pay a price for it, but it is unexpected, or not necessarily unexpected, but unjustified, that a medical system in a modern country, or any country for that matter, that a medical system would so maliciously gouge the finances of its clients, who have nowhere else to turn but to that medical system. It's sick, it's revolting, it's immoral, and so I believe that this is just another instance to point to and say the United States needs to fix its medical system, because they're crooks. They're crooks right now. But as far as the rattlesnake's bites itself goes, this is that old story, right? Where somebody saves a snake, and then the snake ends up biting them, and they say, "Hey, you knew I was a snake." Snakes get scared, feel like they have to defend themselves. People get bit. That's just the way it is.